everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about books. I've got my notes ready and yeah, let's just dive right into this. Okay, so I only read 2 books this month. I know, not a lot, but I do have a lot of thoughts about the 2 books that I read. So I'm going to talk about them kind of at the same time because it's a series. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and then the second book, which is Good Girl, Bad Blood. I gave A Good Girl's Guide to Murder 2.5 out of 5, and I gave Good Girl, Bad Blood 2 stars out of 5. Not great. That's pretty low for me. And listen, I've been disappointed by popular TikTok books in the past, and this was another one of those instances. My biggest problem with these books, well actually, hold on, before I tell you about my problem with them, let me give you a brief synopsis of what it's about. So the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, basically this teenage girl gets murdered in this town. A few days later, her boyfriend commits suicide, and her blood is under his fingernails, and he has her cell phone, and he had sent a text to his dad saying, "It was me, I did it, I'm sorry." And so everyone was like, oh, he did it, he's the one who killed her. And our main character, whose name is Pip, is like, no way, Jose, he didn't do it. I'm gonna prove him innocent. And listen, the reason she is so convinced that he's innocent is because he was nice to her like 8 years ago. I mean, it's one thing to want to find justice and stuff if there's if it's there's a glaring missing piece, but I don't know, someone just being nice to you a long time ago, I feel like it's not a reason to dive headfirst into proving them innocent and put yourself in danger over. Could just be me. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what the first book is about, and it's about her trying to prove him innocent and digging into everybody's lives, whatnot. The second book is that one of her friend's older brothers goes missing. She's created a podcast from the first book, telling the story of what happened, and so she decides to use her podcast to try and find this guy. She has quite a few followers, I guess. So that's kind of what the second book is. I also okay. The second book plot is also girl, what is your reasoning? Because the kid who is missing is 24 years old, so he's an adult, and he has a history of leaving without telling his family. So she's like, the police won't do anything, and it's yeah, because he's 24 and he has history of leaving his family without saying anything. So, and it's only been 12 hours, so they're not gonna open a full-scale investigation for that, I don't know. Anyway, so now let's talk about my problems with this book. These books, both of them. So Pip, the main character, her whole personality trait is finding the truth and justice, and she is doing the right thing to prove people are innocent and things like that. But then she does some really shady stuff and illegal stuff. Homegirl breaks the law. Okay? And she also doesn't really seem to care about justice if it doesn't benefit her. There's a situation that happens in the first book where she finds out some information and she lies about it to the police and to everybody because it could hurt her friend. Girl, that's how the problem came about in the first place, is people lying to protect their friends. Okay, and I understand, you want to protect your friends, you want to protect your family, but I don't know, if your whole personality trait is that you're all about the truth and then you lie, that kind of seems like a bit of a clash, if you will. And in the second book, she just like goes off the rails and does some crazy stuff and doesn't face any consequences, and it's kind of just brushed off, never mentioned again, and you're like, shouldn't you face some consequences from that? Like, you shouldn't have done that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. The other thing that really bothers me about these books is that they're YA, which means that they are young adult, which means that the target audience, the age for these books is supposed to be from 12 years old to 18 years old. Now, an 18-year-old can handle reading a lot heavier things than a 12-year-old can, granted, but this book says the F word so many times. Like, the first one said it like, I don't know, maybe only a few times, and I was like, okay, not ideal for YA, because that's what it is. But the second book, like, there was one page where it said the F word literally like 6 times. That is not appropriate for YA, And I'm not trying to be like a prude or like a, narc or anything, but if you're marketing a book as YA, then it needs to be appropriate for YA. If you want to make adult content, market it as adult content. Don't say that it's a YA book, because I feel like 12-year-olds maybe shouldn't be reading that. And like, listen, if your kid's going to public school, they're probably hearing the F word that many times anyway. Let's face it, they are. Teenagers swear a lot, okay? But I just don't feel like it was appropriate because it's marketed as YA. That's why. I don't know. There's also some like adult themes in this book, in both of these books, that are pretty heavy, and they're not super graphic or anything, but I still think it's a little too heavy for YA. And from what I've heard about the third book, it gets even heavier and even darker and is very not appropriate, which I didn't read the third book. I started to read it and then I was like, why am I reading this if I didn't like the first 2? So I stopped. Also, there are some plot points that are not super believable in the first book, but I'm like, okay, it's YA, I'll give it some leeway. You have to have some suspension of disbelief, especially if it's targeted towards younger people than you are, and especially if you're not the target audience. But the second book, where did the plot go? Where did the plot go? Okay, I know I'm being vague because I don't want to give spoilers, but if you've read this book, please tell me what you thought about this, because I'm like, that audio sound that is like, that's like, what happened to the original plot of the movie? That is how I feel about this book. I'm like, whoa. It felt like the author wrote 3/4 of the book and then was like, oh snap, I need to have a killer or a bad guy. And then she just was like, okay, guess I'll throw this in. Like, what? It doesn't connect at all. I feel like if you have a mystery or thriller, you should be able to look back throughout the book and say, oh, okay, these points connected, and like maybe if you're really good at solving crimes, then you would have been able to figure it out. Like, even if it's hard to figure it out, you should be able to make those connections, and that it does not happen in this book at all. There are no connections being made, okay? It's insane. I did not like that. Also, this is a pet peeve, but I really hate it when characters find evidence illegally, because this happens a ton in these books, where she obtains evidence illegally, and then it's like, this will definitively prove that this person is guilty, or this will definitively prove that this person is innocent. No, it won't, because you obtained the evidence illegally. That makes it completely inadmissible in court. I'm not a lawyer, nor do I want to be one, but I know that, and it really bothers me when characters do that, because I'm like, okay, maybe it proves a person innocent or guilty, but if you're trying to have any justice follow through with that, like if you're trying to put them in jail or get them out of jail, that will not happen because you obtained the evidence illegally, and that makes it inadmissible in court. Just saying. Just saying. So these were the only 2 books that I read this month, but I noticed a theme from other recent modern YA thriller mystery books that I've read. And that is that in these books, as well as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, the main character is faced with a moral decision. And they always choose themselves. They never choose the right thing. Like, I don't know if it's just the books that I've been reading or if this is happening in a lot of YA books. If this is like a modern mystery trope thing that I just don't know because I haven't read a ton of them. But I feel like it's so hypocritical to have a main character who is saying that they're trying to find the truth, they're trying to bring justice to the family of the victim, whatever. And then they do the same exact thing that the bad guys did by lying to protect themselves or to protect their family and friends. And I get it that you want to protect them, but also I feel like it's more admirable to have a main character who has to face a moral decision that's really hard and has consequences. And to say, I'm going to do the right thing, even though this has consequences for people that I care about, because it's the right thing to do. And I feel like it's pretty damaging to have this idea of selfishness in YA books, because I mean they're directed towards teenagers who are very, what's the word? Pregnancy brain. What's the word? They're influenced easily. What am I thinking of? What is the word when you are influenced easily? Impressionable. Impressionable. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, thank you, Google. Teenagers are impressionable, which I'm not saying that as a bad thing, because that's just how the human brain works, and that's a part of development. That's not bad. But if you're writing to an audience of impressionable teenagers, why are you telling them that the best thing that they can do is be selfish? It's not. Don't you want them to be moral people? Don't you want them to do the right thing just because it benefits society? I don't know. That kind of bothers me. I'm not gonna lie. And I haven't noticed that with like older mystery books that I've read, because I've read a lot of like classic mysteries like Agatha Christie's, or I read one, now I can't remember, hold on, you guys, pregnancy brain is real and it is just obnoxious, and I am going to find the book that I'm talking about, because what am I talking about? Hello? Mary Higgins Clark, that author. Which I'm pretty sure she wrote mostly in the 80s. And so it's like, you know, I've read some of these like older mysteries and they don't have that. They don't have that like attitude of selfishness. So I don't know if that's new. I don't know if it's only in the books that I'm reading, because I'm not trying to be like, this generation is awful or anything, you know, because that's not helpful either. But it just bothered me. And it makes me not want to read other modern mystery thriller books, because I'm like, I don't want to read about a bunch of characters who are selfish and only do the right thing if it benefits them. No thank you. Anyway, so those were the books that I read this month, 2 books. Let me know if you've read them, or if you've read other modern mystery thrillers and you think I just need to give some different ones a shot. Let me know, because I like mysteries, but not like that. Okay, on to my May TBR. First book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I know this was on last month, and technically I actually finished it last night. Wait, I have it. Hold on. Grab both. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Isn't this a fun copy? Anyway, I technically finished this last night, but it's May, so I'm not gonna talk about it till next month's wrap up. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I talked about what the synopsis was last month, and I'll talk about my thoughts and details about it next month. So next, Don Quixote by Cervantes. Again, this was on my April TBR and I didn't read it, so that's kind of embarrassing, and it will be really embarrassing if I don't read it again this month, but I really want to. Also, look at how cool this copy is too. Look at that. And then it's like fun yellow. Cute, right? Anyway, my mother-in-law got this for us. Thank you, Stephanie, if you're watching this. Yeah, again, I said the synopsis in my last month's video, so if you missed that, go back and watch it, and then you'll know what it's about. It's a classic. Great book. The next book on my TBR is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I love this book. I've read it before. It's a reread for me. It's just has my heart. It's one of the best classics ever, and it's very accessible if you are nervous about reading classics, because it's kind of hard to read classics sometimes. But basically, it's about this young orphan girl named Anne, and she's adopted by a brother and sister. They thought they were getting a boy, and there was a mix-up, and they got Anne instead. They decided to keep her, and it's just kind of about her life with them, like having new experiences and going to school, and it's just so beautiful. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to reading it, and I'll tell you all about that next month. The last book that's like on my TBR is not a specific book, but just kind of generally, I would like to read a sci-fi novel this month. I really like sci-fi. I grew up watching Star Wars, Star Trek. My mom is a huge Trekkie, and so I've seen like every Star Trek, and I also love it because it's awesome. But because my mom loves sci-fi so much and I grew up watching it so much, it also instilled a love of sci-fi in me. So I would like to read a sci-fi book. I have really enjoyed books by Isaac Asimov in the past, so maybe I'll read another one by him. But if you have any good sci-fi suggestions, let me know, because I'm always in the market for good sci-fi. I mean, who isn't, am I right? Well, I guess people who don't like sci-fi, but yeah. So, that's the books I read. That's what's on my TBR. Hopefully you enjoyed my rant about ethics. And I hope that you all have a great reading month. Let me know what you read. Was it a good reading month for you guys? I feel like it was a little rough for me, not gonna lie. I went on vacation, and that kind of was part of it, so I didn't read for a whole week because I was partying it up in Disney World with my husband. But yeah, so that kind of affected it. But let me know if you had a good reading month and what your favorite book was, or what your least favorite book was. Let me know if you read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, that series, because I want to know other people's thoughts on it, because I know it's popular and I just need to know. Anyway, like, subscribe, you know the deal, and I hope that you guys have a great day.